Tanks 1, 2, and 3 are the quarantine tanks. Let's go over the livestock and the equipment for each. We'll start here. Tank number 1 is the 40-gallon breeder tank. It's just a simple glass tank I bought from PetSmart or Petco during one of their $1-gallon sales. The lights hanging up here are just some really simple LEDs. They're Fluval LEDs. They really have simple, just kind of all on, blue, and then off. I rarely actually use them on this tank because it just produces algae growth, and you can see I only have one clownfish in there right now. So the 40-gallon breeder, here's the little mesh screen I made. It's fine. I had to cut it out over here and over there, and then I had to cut a hole also for my auto top-off unit, but it keeps everything nice and secure. I bought this big pump. This is rated for like 100 to 120 gallons, something on Amazon. I can't remember the name of it, but it puts out a lot of power, which is great. And so since I medicate this tank, all I have in here is a sponge filter, and then sometimes I put carbon in there, but there's copper running right now, so there's obviously no carbon. Auto top-off unit I'm using, I have 3 total one, and this is my Toonsy osmolator. It's a great one, and you can see here is the auto top-off unit right here. Right here is where the water comes out, and then I have it attached to a 5-gallon bucket. This bucket lasts me, I'd say, a little over a week, maybe like a week and a half, and then I have to replace it. Other stuff in the tank, simple thermometer, nothing fancy at all. It just came with the tank. 2 pieces of PVC for a little bit of home. And then heater-wise, this is nothing fancy. This is some Orlushi or Orlushi. It's Amazon as well. It's a 60-watt heater, which is pretty perfect. Our house is 75 degrees. In the summer, it's 75 degrees because of the air conditioning. So, okay, the only livestock in here is this true percula clownfish. I thought he was a goner. He wasn't looking good. He wasn't eating. I've treated him with, he's being treated right now with copper, and he's looking really normal, actually. And I've also treated him with Ruby Reef Rally and Prazipro and General Cure. You know, I didn't want to treat him with all those things, but I didn't know what the problem was. But he's looking really healthy right now. He's going to be quarantined for another 10 days with the copper. And then we're going to move him, 10 more days with the copper, and then we start the month clock with nothing in here. There were, probably can't even see them, tons of pods in this tank. Copepods it looked like. I don't even know where the copepods came from, but they seem to have died out, which is fine with me. Okay, that's tank number 1. Tank number 2, quarantine tank. Let's start with the equipment. This is a 20-gallon long. Again, I got it at PetSmart or Petco. $20, 20 bucks for a 20-gallon. I really like the long version here. It's more like a frag tank, and it's not quite as high. The lights are exactly the same. I own 2 of these Fluval Reef lights. They're totally fine. I wouldn't buy them again because there's other lights that I like more, but for a quarantine tank, they are fantastic. Equipment, I have not built a mesh lid for this yet, so I'm just using this egg crate, which really isn't great because the wrasse could probably get out, but so far this egg crate's been working just fine. This is a little pump that came with it. I actually bought a little kit. Oh, it's top fin. Top fin, again, this thing doesn't put out that much flow, actually. I don't know if you can tell. It really puts out a very low amount of flow. It's decent. You can see a little bit of flow there. But I also have this utility pump in here to give it a little bit more action. And the only things I put in here, I use the filter floss in the back, carbon, and that's it for filtration. But because this is a coral and invert quarantine tank, I do have some sand in here because I like to, like when I had a conch or a conch in here, he needed a sand bed, so I put this in here. And the live rock does help provide some filtration as well. So I just made this cheapo egg crate frag rack. One day I'll upgrade it, but basically when this tank is broken down, I'll just sterilize everything. This little pump here, this is actually the return pump. that came with the Fluval M60, but it wasn't enough, so I upgraded that. So I'm just using that in here, which creates a really good amount of flow. Thermometer-wise, I use these super cheapos. I have like 8 of them, and you can get them on Amazon. So many different brands sell them. This one might be a Mars Aqua one. Okay, equipment-wise, lastly is the heater. I think this heater is a Fluval again. No, top fin. It's probably a top fin. Just whatever came. Regarding livestock, right now in this tank, for corals, I have, I don't even know what half these things are. We have some SPS and some non-SPS. These are some sort of zoas here. I don't even know what kind they are. I got a frag from one of my friends, SoCal Coral Reef. He gave me these. You can see they're happy. They're doing fine. He gave me this big something or other. Some sort of SPS. I don't know anything about SPS corals, but it has a little algae growing on it. I gotta clean that off. I think this one's called a toadstool. It's going fine. There has been, this is the rock that was in his tank. There's been some bubble algae, so I've been pulling it out every few weeks and cleaning it off. I don't want to put it in any other tank until I don't see any bubble algae or nuisance algae for. And this is, I don't know if you remember, but a couple, maybe 3 weeks ago now, my hammer coral in my tank just started randomly getting that brown slime sludge stuff, and it was dying off. It was almost completely dead. So I fragged this head off. I dipped it in Coral RX a lot and was kind of like really vigorously shook it around, and now look at it. It's completely coming back. There's another SPS back here, this green one. I have no idea what it is. This is from another friend of mine called Aquarium Works, at Aquarium Works, so just letting them grow. Then there is the 6-lane wrasse. This is his permanent home. He's pretty happy in here, actually. He's a little freaked out by me right now, you can tell, but he eats well. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to keep him in here. He seems to like it. He sleeps underneath this rock on the backside. There's a cave, so he makes a cool little, mucus membrane shell every night, which is pretty cool. Then I have a bunch of snails. I basically just, I don't even know, what do I have in here? I don't think I have any trochus. I have some nerite snails. These might be trochus. I don't even know what they are. No, they're not trochus. And then I have a few hermit crabs in here. Yeah, just a little cleanup crew. I have to clean this tank out occasionally. Not too often, though. Okay, so that's livestock and equipment for this one. And then tank number 3 is my last quarantine. It's a fish only / a hospital tank. And it has this one, let's do livestock first. This one guy right here who has been a fighter. He definitely had Brooklinella. I started treating him when I first brought him home. Picked him up for $10. Him and his future mate probably. But I picked it up through my friend Ray. I actually bought it through him because he's a wholesaler, so he's able to get wholesale prices, which is great. So this guy had Brooklinella. No doubt had Brooklinella. Brought him home, didn't realize it was Brook right away. Should have, because it's clownfish. They seem to always get Brook. And so I treated him with copper, but it wasn't getting any better. And his big tank mate was picking on him. So I switched out. I took all the copper out, and I started treating with Rally. And I treated for a total, with Ruby Reef Rally, for a total of, I'm sorry, it's so blurry, total of like 10 days, and it seemed to do the trick. But you can notice some of his fins are a little bit white. That's because he was getting nipped at by this guy. So I actually separated them so that he could recover. But he's looking really healthy now, and there's no medication in this tank. He's been treated with Rally, he's been treated with Cupramine, he's been treated with Prazipro, he's been treated with General Cure, and now I think he's just trying to get well and thrive. So yeah, he's doing really well. Regarding equipment in this tank, it's a 20-gallon standard tank. It was a top fin kit that I bought. It was like on sale for 40 some bucks. Comes with a really terrible top fin hang on the back filter, which is exactly like the other ones. It just has a sponge in there, and then right now there's some carbon in there. It puts out an incredibly low amount of flow. I mean, look at all that. It can't even agitate the surface of the water. Luckily, there's enough oxygen in there, and if I ever have to treat with something that uses up the oxygen content, I have to put an air stone in here. Got super cheap glass thermometer, but I also use one of my cheap Mars Aqua thermometers. Got a couple PVC in here as well. standard heater that came with it from the top fin. And then I just have this Meg float permanently in here for cleaning the glass. I leave... Oh, it also has a little feeding thing here, and then it comes with these LED lights, which are crappy. I pretty much never turn the LED lights on this tank because it just creates algae, and he seems totally fine and totally calm in there. So yeah, the only one I have lights on is my coral quarantine tank. All right, that is the first 3 tank update. Tank 4 update is the SCA 120 gallon, and it's finally coming along after sitting in here forever. Livestock, there's going to be no conversation because the only livestock that is actually in here are dead silversides that are cycling the tank. I just put those in yesterday and they're cycling. All of this rock here that I use to aquascape is from my friend Ray at SoCal Coral Reef. He just had a bunch of extra and he generously gave this to me. So the water's clearing up kind of nicely. I do have saltwater in here. I put saltwater in yesterday. So you can see the little red patches there are the Imac 400 cement that I used. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. You know, this piece here, I just had to cement this one onto here to kind of make it vertical. I'm always drawn to very vertical scapes. I'm not sure why. Over here is just one piece. Here you can see this is 2 pieces put together. This is my pièce de résistance, right? It's actually 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I like it because it provides some nice swim through. So when you're looking at it from our kitchen down here, has a pretty decent view. I wish I would have used a little bit more vertical space right here, but I'm relatively happy with it. This piece is just a single piece, and then back here I did have to glue a piece on there just to make it level. But yeah, so that's the aquascape. As to equipment inside the tank, I'm using 2 Reef Breeders RP-M wave makers. They put out up to 2,600 gallons per hour. And I haven't mounted them or anything. The controller's just sitting here right now because I want to do all of my wires at once. But I have one on the back here, and then I have another RP-M on this side. Oh, sorry, all you're seeing is my reflection on that side. So the way the flow pattern is going is this way. It's putting water up the front, and then it's going to the back. So in regards to our 2 returns, our 2 lock line returns, I just have them pointed this way, or else this whole center area, you can see it's a little bit dead by comparison. See that? See how much water that's putting out? See that movement? And then over here, it's putting out a lot, but not in the middle. So I'm just going to be playing with these lock line returns so that they'll kind of, you know, do the center area here. I did do my own plumbing on this system, and I installed a Herbie style overflow. So you can see the emergency here. This is the lock line, standard plumbing that came with it. And then you can see the primary overflow right there. Other plans for inside the tank equipment wise, I am going to put a really shallow layer of sand, probably something like a 1/2 inch. I don't want too much sand in here. Lights, I'm going to be hanging the Reef Breeder lights. You can see them over here. It's the 48-inch Photon V2s. These are the ones that I use in the 24-inch size on my office tank, and I love them. So I'm going to be hanging them in the next couple weeks. Okay, then moving down into the sump, you can see the custom plumbing job I did, which I'm really proud of, actually. I'm using the, I don't even know what kind of pump this is. It puts out maximum head pressure, about 950 gallons per hour, which by the time it travels up 90 degree left, 90 degree right, and then it travels up 5 feet to the top, maybe even 5.5 feet, I'd say it's putting out maybe 400 gallons an hour, which is not enough for me. So I will be upgrading this eventually, but it's hard plumbed. I just put a little soft plumbing there to keep the vibration down. Over here is just these filter pads that came with it. I will be installing some filter socks eventually, but I'm gonna have to do some acrylic work with that. So for now, it's just cycling. I do have a protein skimmer that came with the SCA PNP 120. It is over there. You can see it right in the background. I'll be installing that relatively soon. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I'm excited to kind of try it out. Right here will become my refugium, so I will get some sort of Chaeto or Caulerpa, something like that, and then I'll put some large ceramic blocks down here and hopefully just populate this with tons of copepods and amphipods that will then hopefully get sucked back up and not die. That's the hope anyways. Right now I just have this over here, all my electrical stuff. I'm not planning on running a controller on this. So I'm going to be mounting everything, and I'm thinking I'm going to mount everything on the outside of the tank here so I can see it all. I kind of wanted to put it inside, but I think I'm going to do it outside just so that I can get to it really easily. And then I also installed these LED lights. I have wire management to do, obviously, but these are really handy. I just bought them from Home Depot, Lowe's, something like that. And then there is a center post here. See it right here. I will put the center post in as soon as I finish doing this. And then right over here is just an empty compartment that I'm going to use for an auto top off reservoir. Probably holds, I'm guessing, 3 gallons or so. And then I am running the Reef Breeders EXO auto top off unit. So then I will stick the sensors over here. The only controller I am using is over here. It is the Bayite. And it's just a temperature controller, temperature probe. I've liked these quite a bit, and I use them. I use it on my display tank. What else do I got? I have a couple reactors, so I'm going to run carbon for sure. I'm not going to run GFO because evidently GFO seems to be out and not a positive thing anymore. Everybody kind of wants a little bit of phosphate in there, so I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this with carbon in kind of the center area, and then I have 2 large heaters. My heaters are Eheim Jaeger's 250 watt heaters. So I got 2 of them. What else? Right now, salt wise, I am running the Reef salt from Live Aquarium. Don't like it. Going to be changing out to something else. I'm not exactly sure what. Okay, so that's the equipment update. I'm hoping this will cycle in about 6 weeks, and then I can start introducing some fish to it. Let's go to the last tank. Last up, tank number 5 is the office tank. Let's put on a little filter here. Talk about the livestock first. I don't even know if that's any better. I kind of like it like this. Which one do you guys like better? This? Or this? I don't know. We'll try this for now. Livestock. Starting with corals. These are all corals I got from my friend Darren. And he buys through Aquamedic in Colorado. And I've had these now for a few months. Starting here with the frog spawn. I thought this frog spawn was going to be a goner about a week ago. This little back section right here just lost tons of its polyps, like just completely gone. But I looked at it and it didn't have any of that brown slime stuff, so I didn't panic. I left it in there because it didn't look like it had any sort of infection. And it's growing back now, and it looks great. And this is a wall frog spawn, which I know people talk about having nightmares with, because if it starts to go, it usually all goes. But so far, it's doing quite well. All right, moving down. This bubble coral is very happy. I don't know what to say about it other than look at that extension. I mean, you see how look how far that is. It's really happy. Has not eaten any of my fish. It's far enough away. Yeah, I've had 0 problems with this. It seems super duper hardy. All right, now the famous anemones. I got these anemones from Poseidon Starks at, he's out of Virginia area. What's it called? Oh, I forget. But anyway, I got them from him. He got me 2 tiny ones. And look at them now. There are, as of 2 days ago, a total of 8. They have split up from 2 to 8 in the span of, I don't know, 3 months. And I assume that it's going to happen again relatively soon. This big one in the back here, I think is going to split up. So that is fantastic. These anemones are doing so freaking good. I'm feeding them meaty foods. They seem to like mysis shrimp, stuff like that, mini mysis shrimp. I feed them twice a week, and they are loving it and super happy. So keep it up, guys. All right, other corals up here. We got the reverse hammer. I think it's 4 heads. No issues at all. Has some really good polyp extension. You can see that. 0 problems with this. I feed them various coral foods about once a week. Target feed them. Down here is the one we have had a problem with. This one got a bacterial infection, I don't know, about a month ago. And if you remember from our quarantine tank, this is the one, see right there, that I had to frag off the head. You can see right there. I fragged that head off because I was worried. It did have the brown slime, so I was worried it was just going to take over everything. But I think I staved it off, and it's doing super well. And then I don't even know what this one's called, but it has those cool neon, non-neon heads. Super pretty, super gorgeous. 2 or 3 heads. Love it. Doing fantastic. And then check out these acans. These acans, I've had them since the time I got these rose bubble tip anemones. They were a frag sent from Poseidon Starks at the place. The name, for some reason, I just cannot remember. But it came with 2 heads, and look at all those little babies. There are now 10 heads. So it's doing really, really well. Well, since we're right here, check out this guy. I had 3 peppermint shrimp. One of them died. One of them was eaten by something, and this is the only one that's left. I kind of want him out of here because he picks on, not my corals so much, but he picks on the anemones. But as long as I keep him well fed, he seems to be doing okay. Then I have the feather duster worm. I was worried about it at first. Now it is happy and healthy. Regarding snails, I don't know how many snails are left. I mean, over half have died. I started out with like 10 Nacerius snails. Let's take this off for a little bit, see what it looks like. I don't know which is better. I started off with about 10 Nacerius snails, and there's like 3 left. And then I have turbo snails, which I love, but most of them are dead too. I think there's probably 3 left, which is probably a good amount because they seem to do a really good job. The Nacerius snails, I haven't had any unwanted algae. I've had the unwanted cyano, of course, but no unwanted algae on the rocks, and I think that's because the turbo snails are taking care of it before it becomes a problem. Other livestock in here right now, there are just 2 in here, and you're probably not going to be able to see them. There are a pistol shrimp. Oh, you can see his head right there. Can you see? Oh, he just went in. A pistol shrimp and a watchman goby. They live underneath there. Sorry, he's not going to pop out. He gets freaked out. He's out all the time, but he's super freaked out by the camera for some reason. Okay, that's the livestock. The 2 clowns will be moving in here when their quarantine's done, as long as they survive. Equipment-wise, these are the Reef Breeder Photon V2 Pluses. I absolutely love them, so much so that I bought the 48-inch ones. I have them hanging directly to the ceiling here. They are programmable, so they have sunrise, sunset. You can control each color independently. You have to use the controller though, so that's the only downside. You can't use your phone, but that's really not a problem for me. You just set it and forget it, sort of a thing. Love them. I have the whites set the maximum power. They're about 8 inches off the water surface. The max power I have the white set at is 13%, and that's only for a few hours every day. And I have almost no reds, almost no greens, and then the blues I have maxing out at 13%. So I definitely have relatively low light for all this, but it seems to be working fine. Back here, I have this media rack that I created, and all it has is some polyester filter floss from Michaels, the super cheap stuff, and then I have some carbon bags underneath it. Next up is the Fluval Sea Skimmer. Don't buy it. It's terrible. It came with the M60, this tank, which I love. It produces almost nothing. It gets clogged easily. So I'm sorry, Fluval. I do not like your skimmer. This isn't the Ghost Skimmer, though. I've heard better reviews about their Ghost Skimmer. This is just the skimmer that came with it. All right, moving on back to here. I have 2 Eheim Jaegers. If you can't tell, that's my favorite heater. I love them. 2 of them back here. Primary, secondary. And then here is the Reef Breeders EXO Auto Top Off and the water here, and that is connected all the way over to here. Here's my auto top off unit right here. Okay, this is it. This is the rest of the equipment for this tank. I used 2 of these trip lights. I used to have an Apex, but I don't really need an Apex anymore. I just think it's really overpriced for what it does. I know a lot of you are going to hate me for saying that. I have owned the Apex Gold, and I just didn't use it as much as I wanted to. So I figured, why not do something simpler that people could emulate? So I have 2 of these strip lights. They're individually controlled. See that? Which I love. And then I have everything labeled on here. This is the Bayite temperature controller. Check links below for all these items. I love this thing. It has 1 for heating, 1 for cooling. My cooling is set up for fans, but I haven't needed it yet, and the heating one's right here. So this is what it looks like. It has replaceable probes, which is fantastic. So if they go, which they do go, you can just replace them for like $8. I'm using this Vortec MP10. You can see it right up there. I have had this thing since the beginning. It is not a quiet drive one. It is nothing fancy about this one at all. But I've actually replaced the wet side once, but it works fine for this tank, and it's a perfect size. I did have the Reef Breeders RP-M on this system, but it was too much power for this tank. So I find this Vortec MP10 to be quite good. Here is the controller for the Photon V2 Pluses. It's not the most intuitive controller, but Logan, the owner, has some videos out there. I think I took a video too about how to program this. Once you program it, quite simple. Go from there. If you own one of these or want to own one of these and you are interested in my light schedule, which seems to be kicking butt right now, especially with the anemones, let me know. I'm happy to send that to you so that you can emulate that. Okay, let's see. That's it. That's it for equipment. Tank. Yeah, tank 5, guys. That's the 5 tank update. I'm hoping to get rid of some of those quarantines soon so I don't have to take care of 5 tanks, which is a lot of work. Thanks everybody for watching. Happy reefing.